Good morning. I just want to begin by saying how honored I am to be here at Sanctuary Cove. This place represents so much of what I think is needed in the world right now. This intersection of nature, inclusive spirituality, peace, groundedness, a kind of openness that allows people to come as they are and experience something real. And as Allison and Ian shared about the importance of community, we are creating that right here and now in this moment. And to gather here at sunrise in a place like this, it symbolizes resurrection. Because in many ways, that's what Easter is about. When we talk about resurrection, we're not just talking about a story or an event or a tradition that goes back thousands of years. What I want to suggest this morning is that resurrection is not just something that happened once. It's something that is happening all the time. It's participatory. It's universal. It's natural. And yes, it's rooted in the story of Jesus. Teilhard de Chardin once said, "To rise from the dead is to align with the evolutionary impulse of the universe." And Bruce Springsteen, in his own way, said, "Well, everything dies, baby. That's a fact. But maybe everything that dies someday comes back." Two very different voices pointing to something very similar. Because if we look around us, at nature, at the cosmos, at life itself, everything is buzzing with this pattern. Life, death, renewal. We see it in the seasons. We see it in the movement from night into morning. We see it in the way winter gives way to spring, sometimes earlier than we expect. And even science, quantum physics, astrophysics, is beginning to echo this idea that nothing truly dies. It changes form. It transforms. It renews. Resurrection, rebirth, renewal. This isn't just theology. It's the language of the universe. Now, it's one thing to talk about resurrection in the abstract. It's another thing entirely to talk about it in our lives. Because when it shows up for us, it often doesn't look like resurrection. It looks like loss. It looks like change. It looks like things falling apart. It looks like the end of something we thought would last. And in those moments, we don't always feel like we're on the edge of a new dawn. Sometimes, it just feels like darkness stretching out in front of us. But what if that ending, what we call death, is actually something else? What if it's a kind of cocoon, a space where something is forming that we can't yet see? Because if there's a pattern woven into everything, into nature, into the cosmos, into our lives, it might look something like this: life, death, resurrection. Or order, disorder, reorder. We begin in something familiar. We get pushed out of it. And then we return, but not as the same person. We return transformed. Think about the butterfly. It begins as a caterpillar, completely earthbound, inching along, unaware of what it's becoming. And then there's the cocoon, which, if we're honest, looks a lot like death, like an ending, like everything has stopped.
But inside that cocoon, something unimaginable is taking place. And what emerges is something entirely new, something the caterpillar could never have imagined. The cocoon is not the end, but the middle of the journey. There's an old Celtic proverb, "Death is the middle of a long life." And maybe that's true, in more ways than we realize, because if we're paying attention, we go through many deaths in a lifetime, and each one holds the possibility of something new being born.
Even in the resurrection story itself, there's something really striking. After Jesus rises, people don't recognize him. Mary sees him and thinks he's a gardener. The disciples walk with him and don't know who he is. They see him on the shore and don't recognize him. And I think that's important because it suggests that resurrection isn't a return to what was. It's transformation into something new, something that may not fit our expectations, something that might even feel unfamiliar. And the same can be true for us. Sometimes the transformations we go through are so profound that other people don't recognize us anymore. And sometimes we don't even recognize ourselves. And we might wonder, is something wrong? Did I lose something? But what if the truth is something new is emerging? As Allison shared, there's this idea that as we grow, our circles of care expand, our hearts stretch, our awareness deepens. And that kind of expansion often requires something to break. Hazrat Inayat Khan said, "God breaks the heart again and again until it stays open." And maybe you felt that tension between a heart that wants to close and a heart that keeps breaking open. And the question becomes, is the breaking destroying you, or is it transforming you? Michael Meade puts it this way: in times of great uncertainty, the soul awakens. The world might be falling apart, but the soul sees through the cracks. And I don't know about you, but it feels like we're living in one of those times. Things feel uncertain. Sometimes it feels like things are falling apart. And yet, what if this is also a moment of awakening? Because if this pattern is real, if life, death, and resurrection are woven into the fabric of existence, then maybe we can trust that something is happening even when we can't see it. That the darkest moments are not the end of the story. That winter gives way to spring. That night gives way to dawn. That the cocoon gives way to the butterfly. There's this beautiful line from Rumi: "The wound is the place where the light enters you." And Leonard Cohen echoes it: "There's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in." And there's a Japanese art form called kintsugi, where broken pottery is repaired with gold. Not to hide the cracks, but to highlight them. Because the broken places become the most beautiful parts. And in the resurrection story, even Jesus carries his scars. The wounds don't disappear. They become part of the story, part of the beauty. To be the ones who can sense the light, even before it fully arrives. To be the ones who can sing, even in the dark. to be the ones who trust that the sun will rise again. And maybe, even more than that, to become the butterfly, to allow ourselves to be transformed, to emerge into something new, to carry our scars not as signs of what broke us, but as symbols of what we've come through. Because no matter what we face, no matter what seems to end, something endures. Something is being renewed. And love will have the final word. So may we be that bird. May we be that butterfly. May we sing. May we trust. And may we remember, even now, the sun is rising.